watching the Mystical Green Beanie.
Hey, what's going on, dudes and dudettes? I am the Mystical Green Beanie, and today I'm going to list off what I feel are the top 5 most overrated storylines in Marvel and DC Comics. Number 5, Flash, Rebirth, and Flashpoint. Alright, so as you guys know, the Flash legacy is my favorite lineage in mainstream comics, and admittedly, due to personal bias, there are very few Flash stories that I hate. That said, Flash, Rebirth, and Flashpoint might be up there. Not because it's a bad story, I actually quite like the premise. Reverse Flash goes back in time and kills Barry Allen's mom, and Barry goes back in time and tries to save her, but in doing so, he creates this dystopian alternate reality. The story itself is fine, but what I don't like is how everyone treats it like it's the only Flash story that exists. From the crappy TV show, to the movies, to even the comics currently, everyone treats Flash, Rebirth, and Flashpoint like they're the only Barry Allen stories in existence, as though the past 60 years don't even matter. Number 4, Death in the Family. Now, this is a story that everyone hails as one of the greatest comic book stories of all time. But I feel like the people who say that either only remember the first half of the story, or haven't even actually read it, and only know about the comic from the Under the Red Hood movie. And the first half of the story with Jason trying to find his real mother and all of that is really cool and all, but then there's the rest of it, where Joker joins forces with the fucking Ayatollah, and then becomes the ambassador to Iran, and tries to murder the entire United Nations. But yeah, nobody talks about that last part. I wonder why that is. Number 3, Spider Island. Okay, so for those of you who don't know, I am not a fan of Dan Slott's Spider-Man. I don't feel like he has the proper voice for Peter in his supporting cast, nor do I think he gets that character. Spider-Man is the eyes on the ground. He's the everyman. And yeah, he goes on cosmic adventures every once in a while, but at the end of the day, he's still a street-level hero. Spider-Man stories are supposed to be grounded and personal, so I shouldn't feel like I'm looking at a pitch for a Michael Bay movie when I'm reading a Spider-Man comic, but when I read Dan Slott's Spider-Man comics, I do. And as I've said on the channel, I don't dislike Dan Slott as a writer, but I really don't like his Spider-Man, and I would love to have an adult conversation about his run with him. All he has to do is unblock me on Twitter, and I don't think that's happening anytime soon. But yeah, it just puzzles me when I hear people say that this is among the top 10 Spider-Man comics ever written. Number 2, The Death and Return of Superman. Now, again, this is one of those stories that's hailed as one of the greatest comic book stories of all time. And I don't get it. I don't. I mean, I like the idea of the death and return of Superman. I think it's a neat concept, seeing what would happen in a world where Superman did exist and then was beaten to death in front of everyone, and how the world would react to such a thing, and then later on, react to his resurrection, but I don't feel like it was executed properly.
Heresy!
For one, it's bloated as hell. It's so long, and it doesn't need to be. The main story takes up like 4 trades when it only really requires 2, at the most 3, but the third one doesn't even need to be that long. Second, there's a lot of inconsequential nonsense that goes on in this story, and I don't get it. And again, I like the idea, I'm just not a fan of the story itself. And coming in at number 1 is Civil War. Yeah, I don't like this comic. I know that a lot of comic book fans, especially newer readers, say that this is among the greatest comics ever written. I'm sorry, this is garbage. And I'm a fan of Mark Millar. He's one of my personal favorite writers. But this is easily one of the worst things he's ever written. And what's worse is that it actually starts out pretty good, and raises a really interesting question about whether or not superheroes should be regulated. But then Maria Hill, being the unlikable bitch that she is, unnecessarily heightens the situation, and then Captain America devolves into this twisted parody of who he's supposed to be, and Iron Man becomes a fascist lunatic who arrests anyone who disagrees with him and throws them in the negative zone. And what's worse is that all of the tie-ins to this event not only contradict the main story, but they contradict each other. This comic is bad. This comic is really, really bad, and I don't know why people like it. But yeah, those are what I feel are the most overrated comic book storylines in Marvel and DC. But what about you? What do you think are the most overrated Marvel and DC comics? Also, do you disagree with anything on this list? Let me know down below in the comment section. Also, if you like this video, hit the like button, share, support the channel, and if you want to see more content like this, all you have to do is subscribe. I'm the Mystical Green Beanie. Thank you for watching, and as always, until next time, Adios, nachos. Adios.
Show me what you